It's not a coincidence, obviously, that Chanukah always falls out during these weeks. The Parshas of Yosef Tzadik, Yosef's the sale of Yosef Tzadik, his descent into Egypt, his rise to power, v'chulu, v'chulu, the whole story over there. So clearly there's a connection between Yosef Tzadik and Chanukah. The truth is, it's well known, and there's a number of connections between the two of them. Yosef Tzadik is described in Chumash really as the only male described in Chumash in such a way as Yifei Tar v'Fei Mar, to be handsome, to be beautiful. He's the only person that's described like that. His mother Rachel is also described, to be Yifas Tar v'Yifas Mara. And we find that Chanukah, there's a connection between Chanukah and beauty as well. The halach, first of all, yeah, you're right. The whole galus of Yavan, the obsession of Greece was physical beauty, and the Yontiv of Chanukah, which is our celebration as a victory over the Yavanim. The halacha of Chanukah is mahadrin, min mahadrin, to beautify the mitzvah. Every mitzvah, there's a concept of hiddur, of making it beautiful, but it's usually not built into the halachas themselves. When it comes to Chanukah, built into the halachas of Chanukah is to light the menorah in a way that's beautiful. So everyone lights it, many menorahs, bending on the night, to be mahadr, to beautify the mitzvah. Related to Yosef, even the word Yosef numerically equals B'gematria Melech Yavan, king of Greece. So Yosef Atzadik is the one that gives us the strength to conquer Greece. And so what's the connection over there? What do we learn from Yosef? What could we learn from Yosef in his story, how he survived his particular galus? What that means for Chanukah, what that means for us? Another interesting thing that we find a connection between Chanukah and Shabbos. This Shabbos is Shabbos, Chanukah. A connection that we find between Shabbos and Chanukah. First of all, Shabbos also, we celebrate Shabbos. We enter into Shabbos with candle lighting, with candles, so neiros. The halachas of Chanukah, what Masechta and Gemara is Hilchas Chanukah talked about? Masechta Shabbos. The Gemara says someone who's careful about both candles will have. It's a schus. It's a school to have children who are Talmidei Chacham. What candles is this? Rashi says both Shabbos candles and Chanukah candles. There's a connection between Shabbos and Chanukah, and the truth is, there's also a connection between Yosef and Shabbos. Again, Shabbos and Chanukah and Yosef are connected, and Chanukah and Shabbos are connected. A equals B equals C, right? So Shabbos and Chanukah, so Shabbos and Yosef are also connected. For example, the first place in Chumash where we have a description of someone preparing for Shabbos is in this week's parsha, where Yosef Atzadik says to the brothers, they don't know that it's Yosef at the time, "V'tevoach tevach v'achein," let's slaughter animals and let's prepare. Says Rashi, in the name of Chazal, Yosef was telling them, listen, I know you guys keep Shabbos, prepare, it's Friday, prepare now and get ready for Shabbos. It's the first time we find such a phenomenon of preparing oneself for Shabbos, of being covered Shabbos and so on. So we have Yosef being connected to Shabbos, Chanukah is connected to Shabbos, Yosef is connected to Chanukah. These three things, Shabbos, Chanukah, and Yosef. What's the connection? How do we explain that? That's number one. Another thing to think about, it's a very, very famous question. It's known as the question of the Beis Yosef, everyone knows, and there's a million answers to it, which is, we know the miracle of Chanukah, what are we celebrating Chanukah for? Because they found the pachecha, they found the jar, only should last one day, it lasted 8. So how much days are the miracle? 7. 7 days of the miracle. So why are we counting 8? Why are we celebrating 8 days? You should only count 7. Next question. All right, so let me share with you an idea. We find there's a statement in Chazal. It's like sort of a saying that it has its roots in Chazal, and the Jewish people. It just became a saying. That hearing is not the same as seeing. In other words, the way that's used, the way Chazal used it, is that if you hear something, okay, it's not, you could become emotionally excited when you hear good news, but it's not the same as if you saw it yourself. Right, so you can describe to a person, like the Grand Canyon, and maybe if you're very good, if you have a good way of explaining it, and the guy has a good imagination, the person can be amazed by such a thing. Wow, I can't imagine such a thing. But when they actually see it, it's not the same. Why? What is it about sight, about vision, that has such much more of a strong impact emotionally than hearing? Well, one way to think of it is as follows. The essential difference between hearing something and seeing something is, when it comes to hearing something, you hear it piece by piece. Right? If I want to give you an idea, right? And I'm trying to give it over with words, then I have no choice but to break it down into very, very little pieces and say it word by word by word. And what you absorb through hearing is word by word by word. Okay. Whereas seeing, when I show you something, and as if I have a picture and I want to describe to you what this picture is, it's going to take me a lot of sentences and a lot of words. And when you're hearing it, all you're hearing is piece by piece by piece. But if I show you the picture, if you see with your own two eyes, then you see the whole thing. There's a very big difference between experiencing something piece by piece as opposed to experiencing something in full. When a person experiences something in full, then that has much more of an emotional impact on them than when if they experience something piece by piece by piece. Whenever you, this is the idea, whenever you experience, whenever there's a klal, whenever there's a moment, there's an experience which is more holistic, altogether, the whole thing, that's much more alive. It's much more alive, it's much more excited. Those are the types of experiences where you get, like you say in Yiddish, zum Zach, you get to the essence of whatever it is. Whereas when you're describing something piece by piece and you're experiencing something more piece by piece, it doesn't move you emotionally so much, and very often you don't really get the etzamin, you don't really get like what it is. So if I describe a person's like face to you, like he has a freckle over here and his nose looks like this, and it's like, okay, kind of get a feeling of what this guy looks like, but not really. But when you actually see him, okay, then you don't need that many words, you just see it right away, automatically, and you get it. Let me show you what this phenomenon, what this means in terms of Avodas Hashem. You know, Yiddishkeit demands a lot of thoughts, a lot of words, a lot of actions, right? But the nature of a Yiddishkeit that's broken down into this thought and this action, though there's no particular thought, there's no particular word, there's no particular action that necessarily captures your very soul. That's the nature of it. I'll give you an example. If I'm saying a sentence, like, would I die for that sentence? Like, if you think about it, what would I die for? What would I give my life for? It's those inyanim, it's those things that when a person like comes in contact with and experiences those things which like you would die for. That's klal. That's the big picture. A person would give their life for something big. None of us would give their lives for like this piece of sushi, that piece of sushi. I'll die for that. That's ridiculous. It's such a small little piece of my life. It's one particular piece of sushi in my one particular meal, one particular day. You're not going to die for that. Anytime a person experiences something which is piece by piece by piece, it doesn't touch the essence of the neshama. It doesn't. What touches the essence of the neshama are moments or experiences which is the whole thing. The whole thing. So for example, according to halacha, God forbid, if a person is confronted with a situation of avodah zarah, gilurei shvichas dam. So a person has to give up their life for the big three. Why? Because those three experiences are not just like, okay, it's a little thing. It happens to be, I served an idol now, and then I move on to my day. No. That's a moment which touches the whole thing. And when the whole thing is being touched, then that comes with unbelievable excitement, and it comes with a level of passion, of energy, of mesiras nefesh. There are certain moments in life which is klal, which is the whole thing. And then there are certain moments in life which are piece by piece by piece. Again, like I said, usually our experiences in life is like machshava d'b'maisa, thoughts, words, and actions. That's how we interact. Any particular thought, any particular word, any particular action, it's just a piece of who I am. I'm not going to die for that. There are certain places on earth which, there's a concept in the Svarim that any idea exists within the person in like a human experience. You could experience it. There's a place on earth that corresponds to this idea, and there's a time that also corresponds to this idea. Olam shana nefesh. So this idea of there being the klal and there being the prat, the big and the particular, the big picture, the visual, the big picture, and the auditory, the hearing, piece by piece by piece. So we feel that sometimes in our experiences. Again, every word, thought, and action that we have, that's pieces of who we are. And because it's just pieces of our experience of who we are, it's very hard to become super excited because of a particular thought or a particular word. So too in place. There's such a phenomenon. There is a certain place on earth which is connected to everything. What is that? It's Eretz Yisrael. See, say what you want about Israelis, but Israelis are passionate. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get into a taxi cab in Israel, and like over here, you get into like an Uber or a taxi. What's the conversation? If you have a conversation, what's it about? Nothing. Meaningless stuff, right? You get over there. What are the conversations about? It could also be about stupid things, but the guy's on fire with it. You know what I'm saying? And like, if you disagree, he'll stop the cab and kick you out. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a certain energy in Eretz Yisrael which is about everything. It's klal. And the more Eretz Yisrael you get, so to speak, the more big things become. For example, what's the epicenter of Eretz Yisrael? Beis Hamikdash, right? The Gemara says about the Beis Hamikdash that by the Shalosh Regalim, when the Jews would all go, so Einim Sufim, they would stand, everyone was tight, tons of people in a small space. Miraculously, when they bowed down, everyone had space. So it's just not a miracle. What's the explanation of that miracle? The explanation of that miracle is that the Beis Hamikdash is a place which is everything. That's what it is. Eretz Yisrael is everything. The Beis Hamikdash is everything. What's within the Beis Hamikdash? What's the epicenter of the Beis Hamikdash? The Holy of Holies. Within the Holy of Holies, what's the center point? It's the Even HaShasiyah, the rock. There's a certain rock that's on the place where the Aron was. What's significant about that rock? Chazal say, Mimenu Hushtas Olam. That was the point from which all of reality emerged. When the Rebbe Shalom created the world, the first thing was that rock. And from there, all of reality emerged out. It's everything. Eretz Yisrael is everything. The Beis Hamikdash is everything. The Even HaShasiyah is everything. What's Chutz La'aretz? Chutz La'aretz is piece by piece by piece. You're here, you're not there. You're there, you're not there. What's the Yiddishkeit of Chutz La'aretz? The Judaism of Chutz La'aretz is also Judaism of piece by piece by piece. So it's very hard to become inspired by any of that. But why? It's very hard to become inspired by just one moment of putting on tefillin when it's just one moment and it passes and it's just a piece. It's like hearing a little bit about the Grand Canyon. It's a piece of it, so it's not so inspirational. The Yiddishkeit of Eretz Yisrael, however, conceptually is the Yiddishkeit where it's everything. It's those moments corresponding to the person. It's like those moments when a person feels that they're about to do something big. Person is about to get engaged, right? So that's not a small thing. If you think about it, it's just one moment, and the moment passes. That's not one moment. That's my entire life. So that's a moment where you could, it's scary, it's exciting, however you do it, but it's something big. It's not just one particular piece. The Yiddishkeit of Eretz Yisrael, so to speak, is a Yiddishkeit of big. That's the moment of where a person is confronted with the big three. Do or die. Am I a Jew, am I not a Jew? It's a big moment. But now that I know I'm a Jew and I'm just a matter of eating the right food, am I going to say the right thing and not say the right thing? Okay, it's a small thing. There are times in the year which are big, and there are times in the year which are more particular. Shabbos. Shabbos is big. Shabbos is everything. Shabbos in time corresponds to those moments which is everything. Shabbos in time corresponds to Eretz Yisrael in place. For example, the bracha in Shema, we changed the bracha before Shema on Shabbos, and we start off what? Hakol Yoducha. Everything praises you. Everything thanks you. Everything knows you. Everything. That's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is everything. What's the 6 days of the week? Okay, 6 days a week is a piece here, piece there. This is why it's interesting. What is the Gemara, the Talmud that was developed in Chutz La'aretz? It's Talmud Bavli, right? Babylonian Talmud. When Talmud Bavli wants to introduce a new idea, how does it do it? Tashma, come in here. Come in here. It's hearing, piece by piece by piece. The Yerushalmi and the Zohar Kodesh, which are Torahs from Eretz Yisrael, what does it say when it introduces something? Tachazi, come and see. It's everything. What is the exile of Yavin? The Golus of Yavin is as follows. As I mentioned this the past couple of weeks, I think I've mentioned this in the Kudah because it's such an essential point when it comes to Chanukah, is that Chanukah historically was a moment of transition. It was a transition from when the Jewish people were experiencing a Yiddishkeit of big things, of big feelings, of big experiences. That's called Nevuah Torah Shebechsav, the written Torah. It's everything, to an era in Jewish history which was Torah Sheba'al Peh, primarily, which is details. See, for example, Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is the father of Torah Shebechsav, of the written Torah. That's Chumash. It's Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu himself is. We see these three dimensions coming together in Moshe Rabbeinu, the everything of Moshe. For example, Shabbos is very much connected to Moshe Rabbeinu. It says, we say in davening, Yismach Moshe b'anas chalkai, that Moshe should be so happy with his portion, referring to Shabbos. Chazal say that even when we were in Mitzrayim, Moshe Rabbeinu went to Paro, surrogate grandfather, and said, the Jewish people are your slaves, and you work as slaves 24/7. It's only a matter of time till they die. So you have to give them a day off. So Paro says it's a good idea. You pick the day. And Moshe comes up with the Shabbos on his own, the seventh day. Moshe is connected to Shabbos. Moshe is big. Torah Shebechsav is big. It's national. It's national. The subject matter of Tanakh is not talking about what you do on Tuesday afternoon between 3 and 4. The subject matter of the prophets is what? Is big global things, global ideas, national things, justice, morality, big picture stuff. You're a Jew. Big ideas. Moshe Rabbeinu was big. Moshe Rabbeinu is big. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu, it's an amazing thing if you think about it. Remember the story when Moshe, he goes out of the palace and he sees a Mitzri hitting a Jew, right? And he kills the Mitzri. Think about that for a second. If any of us were thinking like in a very logical, methodical way, none of us would do that. You know why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't know that, the Exodus is coming, right? He doesn't know that. All he knows is like this, that I'm a Jew, and divine providence has made it that I'm being raised by Paro. So I'm just going to buy my time. I'm going to buy my time. It's only a matter of time. Paro's an old man. He's going to die at some point. And then who's taking over? Me. What's my first decree? Free the Jews. What does he do? Instead of that, but now he sees this guy, this Egyptian, hitting the Jew. So what does he do? He kills the Egyptian, risking the entire plan. So why did Moshe do that? It doesn't make any sense. The answer is, Moshe Rabbeinu can't stand exile. Moshe Rabbeinu can't stand any of this. He's not thinking straight in a certain sense, kiviyachol, so to speak. He can't think like piece by piece by piece, do this, step 1 to step 2, step 3, and eventually we'll get out of Galus. Galus is terrible. I can't stand it. Moshe is Shabbos. Moshe is big picture. Moshe wanted to get to Eretz Yisrael so badly. Why? Why did he love Eretz Yisrael so much? Because Eretz Yisrael is everything. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to experience life within everything feeling. Every moment of life, Moshe Rabbeinu wants to feel, this is the defining moment of my life. So Moshe Rabbeinu sees the Egyptian hitting the Jew, and he doesn't see it as just like one moment that'll pass and it's part of a bigger plan. No, every moment, Moshe Rabbeinu was like, everything is defining me. Everything is the most defining moment of my life. Every moment I'm getting engaged. Every moment I'm quitting my job. Every moment I'm getting hired by a job. Everything is big. That's why even the word Moshe, Mem Shin Hey, with the kailel is bigematria equals numerically the word rotzain, which means will. See, a person, you think, you speak, you say, but where's your will? What do you want? It's those moments where, those big moments, those big experiences, that's where a person's rotzain, that's where a person's will is fully manifest. Moshe is all of that. The Jewish people, during the times of the first Beis HaMikdash, were living in Moshe mode. In Eretz Yisrael, Moshe mode, big things, big feelings, a willingness to die al Kiddush Hashem, a sense of greatness, a sense of grandeur in life. And then we're about to move into Torah Sheba'al Peh. And the Yevanim introduce us to a new world where the lights are off, there's no prophecy anymore, and now we're in like details. There's no more, we can't necessarily feel the rotzain, the big will, the big desire. Think about it, what was Galus Yavin? Galus Yavin was even turning Eretz Yisrael into Chutz La'aretz. See, every other Galus, if you think about it, the Jewish people were kicked out of Israel. So at least there is in Israel, though. But what's Galus Yavin? In Israel, Israel itself, the Beis HaMikdash itself is becoming contaminated. There is no big. All there is small. All there is Chutz La'aretz. What was one of the things that the Yevanim abolished was what? Is Shabbos. So the entire exile of Greece is what? The entire exile of Greece is going through life just experiencing piece by piece by piece. A Yiddishkeit piece by piece by piece. Interactions with other people piece by piece by piece, but nothing big, nothing amazing. Maybe once in a while there's that moment, but more than that, not. What's Chanukah? The Yontiv of Chanukah doesn't say, the Yevanim are wrong, let's go back in time, let's go back to the times of Nevuah, well, we'll just experience big ideas and big things. No. The Yontiv of Chanukah gives the Jewish people the ability to what? To find big feelings and big ideas in the small things. That's the Yontiv of Chanukah. The Yontiv of Chanukah, like the Baal Tanya says, the Baal Tanya writes, he says that if a person wants to know, like a skula, in order to have the strength to overcome any particular Yitzhar, any Yitzhar, mamish any Yitzhar, the Baal Tanya says, here's the skula. He says like this, all you have to do at the moment when a person feels under attack, feel the following thing. Would I die for my Judaism? He says, imagine yourself literally being faced, not with the question of, should I touch the pen on Shabbos? Rather, you should imagine yourself being faced with the question of, am I a Jew? And there's no question. There's no question. When a person is faced with one of those big three, to convert to another religion or whatnot, or to denounce my own identity as a Jew, there's no question you will find the strength to overcome such a quality, because the nefesh, the soul, has the power when its very essence is being threatened, when its entirety is being threatened, it has the power to overcome all obstacles. Why is it though that a person finds themselves sometimes feeling weak in facing a particular test? It's because they don't see that test as being any bigger than just a small little piece of life. But says the Baal Tanya, that's a mistake. A person has to realize that every moment of life is big. It might not feel like it. It might not feel like that moment of where I'm getting married or whatnot, or having a child. So those we understand those are big moments. But what's a Thursday afternoon at 2:05? It's nothing. That's a mistake. Every moment is big. Every moment is infinite. It just the chiddush of how the Rebbeinu Shalom runs the world is that the Rebbeinu Shalom is able to fit such big things in such a small package. That's the chiddush, and that's what we're celebrating on Chanukah. The celebration of Chanukah, our victory over Yavan, is not to say that we're only going to be interested in those big moments. The victory of Yavan means that even when we don't feel like those visceral moments, even when all we're doing is hearing, but we believe that there's something big going on at the same time, and the more a person can be mechazik their faith and reignite within themselves that simple truth that we would die for this. Well, if you would die for something, then you're going to care about it. That's going to bring out strength. This is what Yosef Tzaddik was. Yosef Tzaddik never experienced anything small. Any type of thing that Yosef Tzaddik experienced, he always felt that it was big. Yosef Tzaddik is in prison. It's nowheresville. You're not getting anywhere. You're literally in a pit, in a dungeon, in the lowest place on earth. And even there, Yosef Tzaddik is putting an effort to be Matzliach. He's trying to climb the ladder, to become the best guy in prison. What's motivating him? He's being sold, he's a slave to Potiphar. You're not getting anywhere. You're going nowhere. And yet, Yosef Tzaddik is motivated. He's Ish Matzliach. He's going to become the best slave in that house. He's going to rise the ranks of whatever little ladder there is. Why? It's because Yosef Tzaddik holds the secret to Chanukah. Yosef Tzaddik holds the secret that there's nothing that's small in life. Don't wait for those moments which is like, everything or nothing. Those moments only come in short demand. What a person has to recognize is that most of life is full of those just moments that don't feel significant. But the strength of the Yosef Tzaddik is to recognize that there is nothing that's not significant. Everything is significant. We might not feel it as such. It might not be viscerally as amazing as those, all or nothing moments. But everything is big. And Yosef Tzaddik realizes that, and even when Yosef Tzaddik finds himself in prison, in nowhere, mamish, in the depth of darkness, he says, you know what? But this moment only looks like it's small. The Rebbeinu Shalom is as much invested in my life now as he would be if I was faced with a big idea. So people feel like, it's an amazing thing. I've mentioned this a number of times, like when people get married, right? So it's Bashert, right? Who you get married to. In Sefer Chassidus, you won't find any more of a discussion about Bashert, about Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence, in terms of who you get married to. According to Baal Shem Tov, everything is Hashgacha Pratis. There's as much Hashgacha Pratis in terms of who you get married to, as much, and the same level of Hashgacha of divine providence is also involved with what apple you buy at the store. It's all big. There's no such thing that's small. To think that there's a separation between the big events in life and the small events in life, that's Yavan. That's the exile of Yavan. There's a Torah Shebechsav, there's an error, there's big things, and then there's small things. Don't get too riled up by the small things. A person believes in that, so you forget about God at that moment, and the Yetzer has a place to take hold of. That Chanukah means that there's nothing that's small. Chanukah means there's no such thing. A small little jar of oil, which can only last one day, lasts 8. This is the connection, again, this is why Shabbos and Chanukah, guys, it's all the same thing. In other words, what is Chanukah? Chanukah says that you don't have to have Shabbos only after the 6 days of the week, understand? Chanukah means that you can have Shabbos during the 6 days. It means even during the 6 days when it's just all pieces, and all is just Tashema, but there's no Tachazi, Chanukah says there's a Chazi there too. Remind yourself during the 6 days of the week that Yiddishkeit is something you would die for. If a person remembers that, mamash, think about that. And by the tzaddikim, this is what they would do, by the way. It's well known, the Rebbe Melech writes, he says when a person, in Satal Katan, he says that if a person you're laying in bed, it's a little bit extreme, but he says if you're laying in bed and you can't fall asleep, so what do? You count sheep. It's a waste of time. So what do? He says, imagine yourself dying al Kiddush Hashem. So he says, imagine that the non-Jews are coming and they're in front of a cross or whatever. Give up your faith. And you're saying to them, B'shum life and not, and you jump into the fire. Said Ramelech, then instead of just sitting in bed and doing nothing, you know what you're accomplishing then? It's true. Every single one of us would die for Yiddishkeit. So why is it that when we're confronted with juicy Lashon Hara, we don't find necessarily the strength to overcome that test? The answer is because we don't see that as a moment of do or die. But it says about time, but that's a mistake. Everything is big. And if a person reminded themselves of the fact that everything is big, and I would die for the things that are big, then you have the strength to overcome everything. This is what Chanukah is. Chanukah was Chashmonaim, dying, willing to die al Kiddush Hashem. Think about it. At that time, so we look back and say, there was a miracle. Of course, they won the war. But at that time, did they think they were going to win? Of course not. So what were they doing? Dying al Kiddush Hashem. We are going to die for our Yiddishkeit. And that's what brought us Chanukah. Because what Chanukah says is that willingness, that part of the nefesh, which is so invested and so passionate about Yiddishkeit, that it will be willing to give its life over for it, that's not something to relegate just to those three, an extreme experience. Every single moment of life should be felt like that. And the Yontif of Chanukah therefore gives the Jewish people the ability to what? To feel something big in what otherwise would be seen as an insignificant moment in time that just passes by. That's what Chanukah is. That's what Chanukah is. So Hashem should help. We should be zech to mechazik ourselves to know what we have inside. That's what Chanukah is about. That you don't have to look elsewhere. You look within yourself. You find the pachechat shel Shem, and you find that jar of oil. Because that jar of oil, again, that's what the jar of oil means. It means that if you dig deep enough, you'll find within yourself such a passion and such a dedication, such a devotion to Yiddishkeit that you would literally give up everything that you have and everything that you own, everything that you will have for it. That says a lot. That says a lot. If we just tap into that, there's nothing. Then everything else becomes less significant. Mamish, everything becomes less significant, and you're able to find the passion in that. A person is about to do a mitzvah, so you think to yourself, don't think there's just tam a mincha that's going to pass by. Today's mincha is tomorrow's mincha. No. Imagine as if the guy were to come into this room, chas v'shalom lo aleinu, and say, listen, either if you daven mincha, you're dead. We would die. That's not a small mincha then. That's not a small mincha then. Shemchazik ourselves like that. Every single mitzvah is like that. Every single mitzvah, whether we realize it or not, is touching the very essence of who we are. And when we realize that very essence of who we are is much stronger than anything else. Anything else. It has the ability to overcome all these obstacles. Hashem should help. Should like to experience that. Not that what I just described, that mashal, but we should experience that passion, that energy that would come from such an experience. We should like to experience that with our own two eyes. Amen.
Thank you, Hashem.